Welcome to the scorching arena of valor and the crucible of courage. This is the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Here, in the inferno of life's greatest challenges, heroes are shaped and legends are born. Every episode is a torchlight of wisdom, casting a glow on the paths walked by those who've braved the flames and emerged stronger. In this furnace of fortitude, we'll explore tales of resilience, bravery, and the unyielding human spirit. Each guest brings their own spark of insight, lighting up the darkness and guiding us through the smoke of adversity. With Fireman Rob at the helm, prepared to delve into conversations that smolder with significance and stories that kindle the soul. It's not just a podcast, it's a beacon for all who seek to rise from the ashes and glow with purpose. So stoke the fires of your curiosity and ready your heart for tales of triumph and transformation. The flames are roaring. The stage is ablaze. Welcome to the Forged in the Fires podcast. Let the journey begin.
All right, welcome back to Forged in the Fires podcast. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. Today's guest, let me tell you, this is going to be a great one. He's a husband, a dad, a war vet, a mentor, a leader, a director, a speaker. You know, I could go on, but let's actually hear the story. Juan Alvarado, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. Now, do I call you Rob or do I call you Fireman Rob?
You know, you get to call me whatever. I mean, don't call me late. That's the key.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I love talking to an individual who's really developed their life into something that they love. And everything that I read, one of my favorite things that I read about you, you said, I am not, nor do I believe in fluff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that that is one of the statements that I read about you?
Yeah. So I had some difficulties in my life and I was really enthused with motivational speakers. And the more I listen to motivational speakers, I'm like, I get motivated, but then what, right? You can motivate me to go to the gym and lift 300 pounds, but at the end of the day, I have to be the one who lifts it up. Like, you can't lift it up for me, right? Imagine if that's how it was. You know, you go to the gym and I get the muscle, like that would be amazing. But as I started to step on stages or even go to events first, right? When I would go to events, I'm like, people are getting excited for nothing. Like, everyone's like, yeah, yes, follow your why. I'm like, but no one's given us anything to do. Like, and so I promised myself that when and if I ever got on stage and if I ever started to teach anything, that I wouldn't be just fluff. Like, motivation is cool. I'll motivate you. I'll inspire you. But then I'm going to give you actionable steps to do. And so that's where that comes from. So now that I speak and I teach people on leadership, whether it's for your family or for yourself or as a husband or, owner of a business, things like that, I will give you actionable steps, no fluff.
I love that. Now I want you to go back to your childhood and to your parents, because it had to come from somewhere where you started to learn that, and then it grew and manifested in so many different ways that we're going to get to. But go back to the beginning of, what did they instill in you, and then how did that translate to how you're going about it today?
Wow, that's a great question. And to be honest, I've never received that question, been asked that question before. So thank you for that. Oddly enough, my dad was a teacher.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that's kind of awesome that how that came about now that I think about it. But both my parents migrated from Mexico, they came over and they picked fruit, and they worked in the ag industry, being day laborers and stuff like that. And then once my dad graduated high school, he went to Cal State LA and got his teaching credential and became a teacher in South Central Los Angeles. So, from picking fruit and cotton and everything up and down California, Washington, Oregon, settled in Los Angeles. And here's a cool thing now that I'm thinking about that. My mom lived in Visalia, where I live now. Okay. And he said, "You're not allowed to come with me until I get you a home." And so he worked for the Los Angeles Times as a janitor. And when he was able to afford a home, or he ended up, kind of settling for an apartment at the time, he then moved my mom to him. But it was just like, I'm not going to commit to anything unless there's something tangible there. My parents have always been like that. Like, don't fake anything, right? And people say fake it till you make it. My dad's like, no, do it.
No
if
way.
you can't do it, then say that you can't do it, and then work your ass off to make sure that you can do it. Don't fake it. And so my dad's always been a pretty quiet guy. My mom has kind of been more the disciplinarian, but it was always, put your money where your mouth is, pretty much. And so it was like that from the very beginning. So.
Well, I can see where the no fluff rule comes in.
Yeah,
it's pretty evident to me now.
Yeah,
especially since you took that message and that knowledge as a young individual, and you served 10 years in the United States Army, and that's something to be proud of. But at the same time, you earned what you got in the Army. I mean, I remember the military. It's not given. Nothing's given to you there, except for a really bad haircut.
The same haircut to everyone, right?
Yeah, I didn't get to pick one. Did you?
No, it's funny because I remember my first day of basic training. I remember that the drill sergeants were like, "What do you want?" And people were looking at them like, "We get to decide." And there's guys with like long hair, and they're like, "Can I just get like, if we have to be like tapered, like, can you cut it?" Yep, sure. And just shaved everybody's head. I was like, dude, and they're just clowning
they're
people.
Just laughing.
I mean, yeah, hilarious. We get a choice? Yeah, you do. And then nope.
You totally get a choice. You want a little off the top? Sounds good. Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, and so serving in the military, what was the preface behind entering in? Because it's not always, I love asking this question, because there's not always a one fixed answer. There's always something behind it, behind why you wanted to, in essence, enlist, to write that blank check to your country so that everybody else could have a freedom.
Yeah. Wow. You are full of first time questions. I've never gotten this question before, and I absolutely love it. Thank you. Thank you for these. But I loved my parents to death, but at that time in high school, I was butting heads with my mom. Yeah. And so it was like, screw this, I'm out. Like, I'm going to be on my own. And I'm the youngest of three. I have two older sisters. I'm the only boy. And I had to fend for myself. I walked to and from cross country, from wrestling, from baseball. I was basically on my own, right, for the most part. Yeah. My parents were there, but my dad, teaching and always grading papers and stuff. Dad, can you throw the ball around? No, like right now I'm grading papers, and mom's always cleaning and doing the typical Mexican mom kind of deal, is cooking and cleaning and stuff like that. And so I was like, I do better on my own, and so I want to be able to live a life on my own. And one day, mom just totally ticked me off, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go and do something on my own. And then my dad said, hey, do you know that on your 18th birthday, you need to sign up for selective service? I'm like, what the hell is selective service? Exactly. And so he told me about it. And so I go to the recruiting office. I'm like, I'm supposed to do some selective service thing. And so, like a dummy, they're like, do you want to take a test? And I'm like, what kind of test are you talking about? And they're like, it's called NASVAB test. I'm like, sure, I could do that. And apparently wowed the hell out of them, because they're showing each other my results. Like, this is just a practice test. Do it again. And so I do it again, and they're looking at each other and like, are you some kind of brainiac? And I don't claim to be very, very smart, but I know some stuff. And I ended up scoring really, really well on my ASVAB test, and was able to choose between being a linguist and to do intelligence work, intelligence and counterintelligence. So I was like, cool, let's do that. And I wish in hindsight that I would have been the linguist, because I would have been, knowing more than one language. Yeah. But I did it because I wanted to get out of the house. What I will say though is I volunteered to be deployed. And I missed 2 deployments, one because of injury, 2 because another time because of personnel issues, but then ended up getting deployed on the 3rd time. But that was something that I also kind of was like, let's go, handle the job. So
that's awesome. I mean, that's It's so funny because we all take different paths in our life, and it's one of the biggest things that I see with what your leadership is all about. It's all about, and I love the, why should I be an intentional leader? And for you, it seems really all centered around that experience and how you can actually start to find your strength through that experiences in life. And no matter if they're good or bad, is that kind of the road that you help people lead themselves down?
Yeah. Well, see what I think where I'm at now, and in hindsight, as I look back, I have a mentor. His name is Rory Vaden, and he teaches you are perfectly positioned to serve the person who you once were. And
wow.
So I was like, now that I look back at my life, I'm like, wow, that's really crazy, because I look at this. I look at my mom and dad not necessarily being there. I mean, they were present, but they weren't present, right? So and then there's some stuff that happened with the police department. Not that I had a bad like a record or anything, but got pulled over, felt like I was being harassed, things like that. I ended up becoming a police officer for a couple years. Being let down by my teachers and stuff in school. And so I look back and I'm like, I have been let down by those in leadership. None of them were intentional in doing the thing that they should have been doing. The teachers weren't teaching. They weren't educating. My parents weren't, bringing me up in the way that I felt that I needed them. They were doing the same thing that their parents did to them. Like there wasn't any, it felt like there was like no improvement there. I wanted to be the police officer that I wish I would have been on the, that receiving end of. And so I'm looking at everything. I'm like, I am being the person who I wished led me. And so now it's like, all right, gloves are off. Yeah. I want to teach other people how to be intentional. So even in my own life, in my marriage, I think I have a kick-ass marriage. It wasn't always like that, but I kind of hang my hat, and not to be big-headed, but I look at other marriages of my family, of other marriages from friends. I'm like, I probably have one of the top 1% of marriages of all my friends and family.
That's
and
awesome.
Everybody asks, like, how are you and Becky so close? Or how are you and Rebecca so always like feeding off of each other? Or how are your boys so well behaved? And I'm like, no, they're not always well behaved. I'll tell you that. But I mean, we're human, right? I don't claim to be perfect, but man, I strive to say, when I spend time with my wife, or when I spend time with my boys, or now that when I go visit my parents, I am going to make sure that I spend every waking moment doing the right thing at the right time, because of the experiences that I had overseas and just seeing the crap that I saw. Is like, life is not promised, right? We only have today. We can't get yesterday back. I don't know if I'm promised tomorrow. So let me make today the best day. And then, when and if I get blessed with tomorrow, I'm going to make that day even better than the day prior.
Oh, I love that. Now, but here's the question. How do you not, when you were in those circumstances, and when you look at it like that police officer, or when you're in school or your parents, how do you get out of that victim mentality? Because I think a lot of people survive in that.
Oh, for sure.
Well, I can't be a leader in my own life. I can't be a leader in this because this happened to me. What do you tell the people that?
You know what? I would, it's hard because I don't know that I was ever in the victim mentality. I always, was like, man, like I wish my dad would play catch with me. He's like, all right, well, you know what I'm going to do? I always tell my boys, like, be a problem solver. I used to get the ball and throw it on the roof and let it roll down the roof and try to figure out where it was going to land and catch it. Right.
You're like the Dennis Rodman of baseball.
Yeah. The neighbors used to get mad because I would throw the ball against the garage, and so like the side garage, like their window was by the garage, so you can hear doom, 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 and they're like, "Can you stop that?" I'm like, "I don't, unless you want to come out here and play catch with me, like no one else." But always being a problem solver, right? Like I can do something about it, control the controllables, and so always being that problem solver. I can sit and mope about it, or I can do something about it. I think it's Jim Rohn that says the wind blows on everybody, and it's how you set your sails. So like, I need to do something about it. So when dad wasn't there, mom's not there, then I can be my own advocate. When you felt that you got robbed by the police officer, I have to think like, that's just one dude out of probably a couple hundred. They're not all like him, right? So I'm not gonna put that badge of dishonor on everybody. We had in the military, we had really cool drill sergeants. We had other ones that were a-holes and didn't know what the heck they were doing. Officers that didn't know their head, their rear. Right.
Yeah.
But it's just be real with yourself, man. It's like, you you just have to say, hey, I can sit here and mope about, but what is that going to do? So, I would say to those people who have a victim mentality is, it's not that bad. Like there's stuff way worse, right? One, and two, it all goes back to the way that you think, right? You're thinking, the way you think will dictate the way and what you believe. What you believe will have a direct correlation with your attitude. Your attitude has an effect on your your behavior, and your behavior has an effect on your performance. So if I'm not performing well or have a bad attitude and my behavior is wrong, well then I can go all the way back to how I am thinking. So how do I change what I'm thinking? And so, is it my environment? Right. So when people are negative, I'm like, what are you watching? And people are like, oh, I'm watching the Housewives of Atlanta. Yeah. Or news. I'm watching CNN. And you're like, well, there's your first problem.
There's your problem.
And so it's like, in our house, I will own an alert will come up on my phone, right, with the whole like Israel and Gaza and Palestine thing.
Yeah.
An alert comes on my phone, I'm like, oh shoot, what's going on? Turn on the news. Cool. I know the gist. That's all I need to know. Cool. And but I don't why watch the news? Like it's not. My son just asked the other day, why is everything negative on the news? I'm like, go answer that yourself. Like figure it out.
Look around you. Yeah.
Right.
Look around you.
And so with all the negativity, if people keep on consuming that, well, you are going to be consumed by what you consume. And if it's negativity, well, then guess what? You've just been consumed what you consume.
That's so true. Now, here, I have to ask you, though, because in 2015, you kind of hit a breaking point. And your PTSD, it's that in my life, it was one of the harder things of admitting that I had chinks in my armor, that I had cracks. That were opening up and becoming wider. In 2015, can you tell me more about that moment? That moment, because I think a lot of people, they see somebody like you who have gotten to where they are, and they go, "Gosh, well, yeah, maybe I can't really relate to that." But you had those moments where you had to dig yourself up, pull yourself up, and rely on some of your support network. Tell me about how that manifested. And then it created into that new, that choice that you made to raise the bar.
Yeah. So in 2015, I didn't necessarily address the PTSD. I just started to realize that I was sinking more and more into a lull. Felt like a lump on the log, and didn't want to do anything. I started to point fingers a lot, because we don't want to. The average person, I will say, doesn't want to hold on to the negativity, right? We project, or we don't take ownership. I see it a lot with my kids of like, hey, who left this out? Well, Levi did it last time, and like that's not what I asked, bro. And so then I start to see like we do it in ourselves. Well, I went to the gym yesterday. I'm not gonna go today, because I'm gonna go tomorrow. Yes. And it's like we try to make a positive out of our negative choices. Like you just have to be real with yourself. And so I got to a point where I was like, you're blaming your CEO, your boss, you're blaming your wife, you're blaming, the situation. And the only thing that can change is that you have control of, right? I said already, control the controllables. And so, I have a faith background, and my sister at one point had said, do you think that you're going through like anxiety and depression, or like anything from your deployment, like PTSD? And I'm like, shut up. Right. One, two, I'm not going to. Yeah. Yeah. We're siblings, right? So, I had said, I'm not going to speak that into existence. Like, some biblical terms or whatever. I'm like, I rebuke that. Like, I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to speak that into existence. And then it was like, bro, but you were deployed. Yeah. And you saw some stuff, and you went through some stuff, and it was like, let's just see. And so I was tired. Basically what I say is I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like I wanted a better marriage. I told my wife, literally told her verbatim, I feel like I have a roommate. Like it doesn't feel like we're married. I was working the police department at the time when this little epiphany happened, and I'm working nights. She would take Levi when he was a baby out and about, do shopping, and just stay out. so that I could sleep. And I would sleep in the closet. I wouldn't sleep in the bed with my wife because she was asleep while I was at work, but I would sleep in the closet because it was the darkest. And so I was able to have sleep during the day. And I told her, I just feel like we're roommates. Like we hardly see each other and we're not married. And so, it felt like we weren't married. And so, I went and said, you know what, I'm going to fix everything that I know that I can fix. Started to have a little bit of a receding hairline. I'm like, I'm not going to be one of those guys that have just the hair around their ears or whatever. So I wasn't close to that, but it was still receding. And I'm like, I'm just going to shave my head. And I remember telling myself, when I get out of the military, I'm never going to cut my hair again. I'm going to have this long hair. I'm like, yeah, good luck with that one, bro.
Good luck.
I'm never going to shave again. And so I shaved my head and I was like, yeah, right. The greatest goals you can have as a married man. And so I shaved my head and I was like, all right, what's next? And then I was like, I don't like my teeth. I play around and tell people that my bottom row of teeth, because I'm from Los Angeles, they were throwing signs and I wanted to make sure that I fixed that. So I went to an orthodontist and I'm like, I need braces today. And they're like, well, it's going to take a week. I'm like, cool, see you later. Where's your next orthodontist? So I went to 3 orthodontists until one said, we can't give you braces today. We can do it tomorrow or the following day, but we can take x-rays and a 3D model of your mouth. We can do it today. I'm like, let's do it. Nice. 3 days later, got braces and I had them on for, 18 months. I was like, I don't like the relationship with my CEO. I'm sitting down and having a sit down meeting with him. And so I just started to address everything. And I think I took a week off. I had all kinds of vacation time because I never took a day off. Yeah. And I took a week off and I went and I went to go see the counselors at the VA and set up appointments and doctor's appointments. And I got a counselor and went to my first therapy session. And then after like 2 or 3 months of therapy, I was like, it was just this light bulb went off. And I was like, oh my gosh, every single time that I have a crappy day, I shouldn't say every single time, but there was times around June, July, August time frame is where I would just get into this dump of a feeling. And not till then did the counselor say, tell me about some of the stuff that happened in your deployment. And so I'm telling her about some of the stuff that happened during deployment. And she's like, when was that? And so we're trying to backtrack some stuff. And we found that I have 3 anniversaries of deployment, and all 3 anniversaries was June, July, and August of some traumatic stuff that happened. So my body was going through that. Yeah, it just knew. The crazy thing is, just the other day I did a podcast on it where I had said, told my guest that, man, just on Friday I had just a horrible day and I didn't want to do anything. Like I haven't had this feeling in a really long time. And then 2 days later I told my wife I need to go through the steps that the counselor once told me. And so I started thinking, like, oh my gosh, this time, October 30th. So it just happened not too long ago. October 30th was my last day of my 9 to 5 that I left, that it was so hard to leave so I can do this whole Raize the Bar business. And so, yeah, your body knows. It was hard for me to leave. Wow. Yeah, it was so hard for me to leave. In true transparency, I probably cried and got emotional for a good month or 2 because I felt that I was leaving what God had called me to do. And I felt like God saying, that's not what I called you to do. I've called you from that. You needed to do what you could in that director position, but now I'm calling you to, get on stages and speak. And so, that moment, it was the 3-year anniversary of me leaving my 9 to 5. And I just didn't want to do anything. I just felt sad for whatever reason. And I looked back and I was like, oh crap, it's the anniversary of me leaving, the 9 to 5. And I put 12 years into that organization. And so I made tons of friends and huge progress there. And I basically turned that program around. And and so
that's crazy though, that the mind is something that we really don't truly understand, but it's so powerful what you just said, because I think a lot of people can associate with that as like, gosh, why do I feel bad? It's that reflection time that is truly valuable, right?
For sure. And if I could add, and this is the thing that I tell a lot of people with my story is, we as quote unquote macho men, right? We do tough things. We lift heavy stuff. We do hard stuff. We can see another guy across the bar or crossing the street or cuts us off, gives us the finger or whatever, and we can go toe to toe with that dude and get pissed off and say, what the hell are you looking at? Right. And just be buff and tough and all this other stuff. But if you can do that, how come you can't look at yourself in the face in the mirror and say, you need to take care of the skeletons that are in your closet? Like, you need to handle the stuff. Like, be brave and macho with yourself. Like, if we can do, like, why are we afraid as men to go to our wives and say, you know what, I'm not happy right now, or I'm going through some stuff. Like, if you can address another man and go toe to toe and say, like, I'm man enough to go do that, then be man enough to address the issue that you have with your wife, address the issue that you have with the kids, address the issue that you have with yourself. Then you can be quote unquote manly to say, you know what? I'm man enough to say, I'm not happy. I want to be better, and I'm going to address this, because to me, that's what a man should do.
That's huge. See, now it was almost like we rehearsed this as like, this is what I want you to say, Juan, at the end, so that you just bring it home. I mean, you need to go to Raize. It's with Raize with a Z, thebar.com. You can find out more about all of these amazing things that Juan's doing. I mean, you can hear from his story, from his passion, that this is what he loves to do. I mean, I can't tell you enough how much I have appreciated having you on, and just the words and the wisdom is definitely not just words and wisdom. It's lived experience. And I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. It's about being intentional. And I have a saying that says, if you don't fill the gaps with intention, by default, it's going to put you in tension. And so you have to feel those gaps being intentional. Yeah.
I love that. All right. But I can't let you go yet, because I have 3 questions to ask you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
All right. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
I'm ready.
First question is, if you could go back to your 18-year-old self and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
Oh, man. Don't be afraid. Be risky. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. All right. Here's the second one. Everybody's living in... Everybody has struggles, and not everybody knows what they are or how to get through them. What would be 2 things that you'd say incorporate into your daily life to continue to have them live and move forward?
Man, I would say wake up early and spend time alone. Right? Yeah. Wake up early, spend that extra time with yourself. For me, it's with myself, but again, I'm a man of faith, and I spend time with God. And so I, put on some worship. I'll read a bit, but spend time for yourself. Basically set up your day, right? Prime or prep your day.
Yeah. I love that. All right. This last one's going to be fun, actually. So if you could have coffee at a firehouse table. So in other words, you can ask any question and it's going to be answered for the conversations. At a firehouse table with 3 people, they can be deceased or alive. Who would those 3 people be and why?
Man, God for sure, right?
There you go. Yep.
He knows everything.
Yep.
Man, I would say, man,
it's tough.
It is. Man, yeah, God for sure. I would say, here's a good one, and I don't want to get emotional here, but I would say the other 2 would be the children that my sisters lost during childbirth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think it would be like,
that's,
if you were still with us, like, what sports would you have played? Where would you be? Just because that was tough. That was tough for all of us. And so, that came out of nowhere. Holy moly. Yeah.
I love that. That's a perfect way to end. Make sure you go to Raize, that's Raize with a Z, thebar.com, and hear more from Juan. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. The honor's all mine.
All right. You guys have a great day, and we're going to talk to you next time. Thanks for listening and supporting the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. And please share this episode with a friend or family member. To find out more about Fireman Rob, or if you have a question, go to www.firemanrob.com. Until next time, live your life forged in the fires.